this is D.S. Yoxheimer, and this is another edition of The Spectre, and the topic for this particular installment is Louis C.K., because he's been, I guess, making the rounds again. He was performing recently in a club in Columbus, Ohio, the Funny Bone. I've been to a Funny Bone, actually. I was going to do stand-up there years ago in Pittsburgh. I don't know if it's still there, but it's one of those chains. It actually was one of those comedy clubs that had the cliche or the brick backdrop wall behind you that comedians would perform in front of. So yeah, so he started, I don't know when he started performing again. Was at the beginning of the year, pretty much, after about a year of being in dormancy. He came out again, and he did some pretty tasteless shit. He did the Parkland shooting joke, and that wasn't a really great idea. And I guess, and he did, but he did a show in Brooklyn recently where he got a standing ovation from his fans. And keep in mind, like, and I don't really, I mean, I used to be a huge Louis C.K. fan. I watched both his TV series, HBO, and on FX. All his specials. Big fan. He did this, it's like, it's just, difficult for me to really resume my fandom, So, anyway, which I don't, it's like one of the things I don't know how to feel about it, because I've seen I watch like Joe Rogan's podcast and stuff like that and everything, and they feel differently about it. They think, well, it's, when do you forgive this guy? That's sort of their point. And then, like, Sarah Silverman came out. I mean, she spoke out against him because she's a good friend of his, and said that, when it first happened on her show on Hulu, and then she came out recently and said something to the effect that she used to let Louis jerk off in front of her, which was kind of fucked up. And I mean, and Sarah's a very vulgar comedian, but she's also, obviously a feminist, I would assume, and is pro LGB. I can never say that right. LGBTQ and all the other 56 genders that are out there now. That's a whole other video. So, but good Lord, really, Sarah Silverman. So I thought that was some pretty good graphics there. I'm proud of that. I really am. So anyway, it's pretty wacky though. I mean, since this, I don't. With that said, like, I don't lump Louis in with Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Bill Cosby, or anything like that. And yeah, I encourage, I mean, if you want to do, I mean, of course, by all means, if you want to, do an alternate show, or where he's performing, great, and rip on him and make fun of him, you should. He's ripped on, all facets of society, all kinds of people, because he's a comic. That's what most comedians do. So, I'm not really, certainly not for censoring comedy, or anything like that. Some of these people seem to basically feel as though they do. It was the two individuals that were spearheading this not protest show, it was just an alternative show in Columbus, were Christine Horvath and Griffin Browning. Here's these two, just sort of, I guess, not to make fun of them, but they're, it's kind of a funny picture anyway. Yeah. So the one that's funny about it is like it looks like they're both gingers and they're just not sticking up for their fellow ginger, Louis C.K. I think the guy with the baby doll dress on and the man bun and the leather jacket looks a little like Louis C.K. You know, that's terrible. Maybe he has an illegitimate son who's, I think he's transgender, who knows. There's 56 genders, it's hard to tell now, so. But anyway, they did they did their little their alternative show, and that's great and fine and all well. I don't really, at some point I don't really see the point in, beating up on or going after Louis C.K. as the arch villain of all that's good or whatever. I mean, he's the thing about what he did was, and I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, people have their fetishes, and people in that, whether they're gay, straight, or whatever. And as long as you're doing that consensually with someone, that's fine. Let your freak flag fly in the bedroom. I don't always want to hear about it personally. I don't want to hear about everybody's fucked up shit or whatever that is. I'm just one of those people, quite frankly. Like, when this happened, I didn't want to hear about it. The last thing I want to hear about is Louis C.K. masturbating. And read an article about it. And that's partly why it's probably hard for me to, he did a lot of jokes about it and stuff like that, and in his stand-up and on his show, but I don't really, when it's literally, a thing, I don't want to fucking hear about it. And you see a lot of hypocrisy sort of coming out, particularly with Sarah Silverman. I've read her books, some of her books, and I've seen her live too, perform, and it gets a little hypocritical when you're making these jokes, and it's basically lining your pockets, and then you say you stick up for all these egalitarian things, and you're otherwise sensitive too, when you can say very insensitive things as well. And you should be able to say whatever the hell you want. I mean, it's a free country. But every time someone says something these days, it's like, oh God, like when Roseanne made that tweet, they talked about it for what, a fucking months, really. And not taking into account that, you've heard what she said in the past, and, she and when you like, I mean, I've watched a thing on Roseanne one time. She was running for president, and it was a documentary on Hulu, I believe, and she on the platform of legalizing pot, and she had a big like posters made up, said "Yes, we cannabis," looking like the Obama posters with the sort of the colors and stuff, like the hope poster or whatever, change posters that he had. So she did that, and she said some really cool shit, totally, that I agree with. She said some pretty vulgar things too, and she put down people, other comedians and people in the media, and said pretty nasty things about them, about Rachel Maddow and Jon Stewart. She said Jon Stewart was a token Jew. She said Rachel Maddow was MSNBC's token lesbian. And she said stuff that she's always said since she's been in the public eye, and she's been on comedy specials and stuff like that. When I see her, on like maybe Showtime or HBO. So, now they make a big deal about it. She's old, she smokes a spliff or two every day, takes Klonopin or whatever, and she's kind of a little fucked up, She's high a lot. So I don't, really, I don't put a lot of weight into anything she really, tweets or, says when I guess basically when I think she's going through that period where episode where she really, you know, is just talking like she's in a comedy club in 1987. So, essentially. And nowadays, you know, it's just the zeitgeist is that people are very overly sensitive, and I'm not saying these comedians, the gay and lesbian and feminist comedians who were who were organized this event when Louis was in Columbus for a few dates, aren't right in doing so, or in feeling the way that they do. Although, you know, I mean, Louis C.K. is not, I mean, you think about all the things that are around us that are evil and shit like that, and you're focusing on this one comedian who did something pathetic and sleazy. I just sort of, it makes me, it implores me or whatever, compels me to want to put like this into a little bit of perspective. And like for instance, this here package that comes to your house, behind this box is someone whose life is a living fucking hell. Okay? This is made by a Chinese child who's basically a slave. So there you go. And I'm sure Griffin Browning and this Christine Horvath, I'm sure they got both of these in their pocket, you know, or that, yeah, both of them one of these in their pocket. That's what I meant to say. And you like Disney, because when you like your Marvel movies and your Star Wars movies, well, guess what? They're both owned by Disney, and Walt Disney used to work as animators to death. One woman back in the 30s or something like that, she collapsed out of starvation. Okay, and when they tried to form a union, Walt Disney had them assemble in the auditorium on the Disney Studios lot at the time, and told them to go fuck themselves. So, so before you sort of, you know, cast Louis C.K. as the history's greatest, you know, or the biggest monster in entertainment or comedy or whatever it is, how you want to define him now, for basically doing something that would, I don't know if it would get him a year's probation or two. It should. I agree with that, but probably the statute of limitations are up on it, and he's rich and he could afford a lawyer to get out of it. So that's kind of the way it is there, unfortunately. But sometimes you need to look to yourself and ask, you know, basically, what are you doing to make the world a better place? I mean, there's a lot of people online, they go on about the situation down there at the Mexican border, and myself included. What the fuck are we really doing about it? I mean, we just sort of, we watch it on TV, we post about it on social media, oh, this is horrible, oh, you know, but nobody does anything about it. Or, you know, all the fucking plastic in the ocean, it's, you know, dolphins are choking on, you know, plastic beer sprues or whatever those plastic things you put 6-packs together on. So, I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, it's one thing to say some shit about it. It's not like nobody does anything about it. Nothing ever gets done about it. I mean, ever since I was a kid, they talked about climate change and global warming. Nothing's fucking been done about it. So, yeah, basically what I'm saying, if you're so concerned, if you're this concerned about Louis C.K. performing, and the rest of the stuff is just sort of going by the wayside, then you're just jerking off. This has been another edition of The Spectre. I'm D.S. Yoxheimer. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I would love to hear your comments or see them below, and click the notification bell if you want to be alerted of future uploads. Thank you.